This episode is brought to you by Stouffer's. Here comes 3-time juggling champion Natalia Rogers. She's juggling law school, her TA job. Oh, narrowly catches the laundry. What's that fourth ball? Parents unexpectedly showed up at dinner time? Is that too much for Natalia? Not with Stouffer's Chicken Alfredo and its mouth-watering mix of Asiago, Romano, and Parmesan. When you're juggling 4 things at once and the clock strikes dinner, think Stouffer's.
Want to feel more confident with your finances this year? If you have 60 seconds, I can show you how quick and easy it is to start building healthy money habits that could last you the entire year just by using Rocket Money. Step 1, download Rocket Money. Step 2, link all your accounts and see your entire spending picture, your subscriptions, your upcoming bills, your due dates, everything. Step 3, tap a subscription you don't use and cancel it. Boom! That's money back every single month. Step 4, create a financial goal for something you want to save for, whether it be a vacation, a retirement account, or a pet's birthday. We don't judge. Now let the app automatically move small amounts of cash towards your goal. In a month, you'll see real dollars piling up. In a year, you'll be shocked at how much money you saved. Similar to the over 10 million members on the app that have saved up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Use the Savings Challenge as one step closer to feeling better about your finances today at rocketmoney.com/cancel. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. One more time, it's rocketmoney.com/cancel.
5 years ago, I was paying $65 a month for my subscriptions. Today, those same subscriptions cost $111, and I don't even use half of them anymore. That's why now I use Rocket Money to manage my subscriptions for me. The app gives you a list of all of your subscriptions and reminds you of upcoming payments, so you're not hit with any surprise charges. On top of that, it also sends you alerts when subscription prices go up, so you always know the price you're paying. If you decide you no longer want a subscription, you can cancel it right from the app. No customer service needed. And the best part is, Rocket Money even reaches out and tries to get you refunded for some of the money you lost. On average, people that cancel their subscriptions with Rocket Money save $378 a year. And overall, Rocket Money has saved its members $880 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Go to rocketmoney.com/cancel to get started. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game with me, Kevin Day, and Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. I just lost the script there, Kieran. Probably should edit that bit out, but let's not do that. Let's add a bit of realism into the show on a Monday morning with our questions pod. What a dramatic weekend of football, Kieran. But first question, I see you got a new football kit, which is quite often the case on a Monday morning. Which I can't quite make out the badge. What kit is that?
It's a Hummel kit. It's the Greenland away kit, which
is it
by this summer could be the United States third kit, for all we know. But yeah, I thought I'd show a bit of solidarity in sort of a typical middle class latte drinking almond milk person style. So it's what you'd expect from a Brighton fan, surely.
It is, and I'll be sorely disappointed if we don't get some kind of official thank you from the people of Greenland and the government there for the solidarity gesture that you show. The only thing that worries me about Greenland is that the capital's called Nuuk. That's the bit that worries me, apart from the fact that the whole thing is a complete fiat. The other big question, Kieran, before we get into our proper questions from listeners, very good as always, is as a football finance pod, what's the size of the fine that's coming Senegal's way after last night's? I don't think shenanigans quite covers it. Has it really?
Yeah, I suspect there will be, as often is the case with these things, a very large broom will be found, and the sound of sweeping under the carpet. It was box office football. Yeah, and then the penalty, which made you think, do you think he's in on this? You know, that really was the most embarrassing penalty of all time.
Well, do you know what? My theory is, I think he thought that Mendy was going to step out of the way as a protest. In fact, I'm rather hoping that Mendy said to him, "Don't you worry, we're so angry, I'm going to step out of the way as a protest." I mean, what a press! I'd be interested. No one seems to know what the official rule in this situation is, because after 5 minutes, I was just shouting to the ref when they walked off, "Let them take the penalty, finish the game if that's what they want to do." And then somebody else said, a friend of mine on WhatsApp said, Mane, get off the pitch, but stay on the touchline, because if Mane goes on the pitch, there's enough players to, because it's under 7. If a team goes down to fewer than 7 players, the game has to be abandoned, doesn't it? So I don't know why. I suspect that referee won't be doing the World Cup final. Let's put it that way. But I'd love to know.
Depends if the United States are in it.
Well, that's true. That's if the European teams are in it, because that's the latest news this morning, isn't it?
Won't happen.
I don't think it will happen. I just 5 years ago, when you worked on Have I Got News for You, somebody said, "Do you think one day there might be a chance where the President of the United States either wants to invade Greenland or buy it?" And you'd go, "We've got enough trouble dealing with Brexit and Rishi Sunak without you starting ridiculous comments like that." But I can't wait for the new series. Although the way things are going, it's not starting for 7 weeks, so this will all be blown over. He will have invaded the moon by then. If he thinks the moon actually exists, that could be a massive conspiracy theory as far as we're concerned. Like the moon landing is apparently a massive conspiracy theory as far as hundreds of thousands of idiots are concerned. Shall we get on to the questions, Kieran? Now we've alienated Americans and people who don't believe in the moon landing.
We love America, by the way.
We do love America. The concept of America is great. I love my dad, God rest his soul. He adored America. He thought America was great. He loved national service, but the one thing he resented was that the uniforms weren't as smart as the American GIs in the films. But no, as far as my dad was concerned, America and Russia won the Second World War for us. He had nothing bad to say about either of them, which made for some interesting pub conversations.
I can imagine.
Especially during the old CND days, but there you go. Paul O'Neill has our first question. And Paul O'Neill says, "I see a lot of commentary in social media, on the media in general, in fact," says Paul, "that PSR is designed to maintain the status quo, i.e. the Big Six, Spurs." When was this written? I know we've got a waiting list for questions, but anyway, Spurs, Arsenal, United, City, Liverpool, Chelsea. You've mentioned before that to change a rule in the Premier League, it requires the agreement of 14 clubs to pass the new legislation. My question is as follows: why is it then that the other 14 clubs don't band together more to drive change that would be favourable to them? When I hear of failed proposals, there may generally be sort of 2 to 3 in favour with 17 against. It appears that the other 14 want the Premier League to retain the status quo in some aspects too. What do you think? Interesting in the fallout from Oliver Glasner's ill-timed comments on Saturday evening. And as a mate of mine yesterday, my mate Kit Kat said, I imagine Oliver woke up in a skip somewhere surrounded by cans of special brew. I've got no memory at all of from the final whistle till 3 o'clock this morning. What happened? But in the general fallout, Martin Samuels used it as another excuse to say that PSR is wrong, the regulator is wrong, and it's all that somehow Ollie Glasner's rant was an indication that PSR is simply designed to maintain the status quo for clubs other than Crystal Palace. I didn't quite follow the logic of his argument, but it's an argument that Paul O'Neill says is being used by many people.
Yes, the politics of the Premier League are intriguing these days. When Richard Scudamore was in charge, he effectively ruled it with a bit of an iron fist, and the votes tended to be 20-0 on practically everything. He was a very skilled negotiator and organiser. I think he also saw the writing on the wall in terms of how complicated the Premier League was going to become. And a bit like Tony Blair, he got out at the right timing. And your profession, as you always say, timing is absolutely critical. Well, I think in the politics of the Premier League, we have the same. Every club will vote in favour of what is best for itself, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. We all operate with that. We also acknowledge that there are broader issues. Um, the reason why the other 14 clubs don't band together to drive change was certainly for many, many years the fear of Super League. It was used by the two Manchester clubs, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and so on, and Spurs, as if we don't get our way, then we reserve the right to join a Super League. We've had conversations, and they even had their own WhatsApp groups, and they'd even go to their own little room by the side of the meetings where the Premier League chief executives meetings were held, and effectively hold the other clubs sort of to ransom. I mean, there are two ways of looking at this, and I think sort of one classic example was in 2015-16, when Leicester City won the Premier League on merit. The Big Six didn't like that. They thought this was an absolute affront, and they felt that perhaps they historically had been too generous towards the other 14, and therefore they pushed through new rules when it came to the distribution of money within the Premier League as far as the international broadcast deals were concerned, so that they ended up with a bigger share. Historically, the money from the international deals had been split evenly between all 20 clubs. And again, that suited the big clubs when the Premier League was started, because in the first 4 or 5 years, the international broadcast deal lost money. So therefore, if you're going to lose money, share the losses equally. When it becomes profitable, let's take a bigger share. This is sort of classic predatory capitalist behaviour, and it's very common in a variety of industries. So there was this sort of bully boy tactics used. And since then, we have seen factions forming, reforming. The Premier League self-interest has become very, very fluid on an item-by-item basis. And I think this was most evident when we had the decision to introduce the squad cost ratio as from the start of season 26-27. And if you take a look at the 6 clubs that voted against that, which were Palace, Bournemouth, Leeds, Fulham, Brentford, and Brighton. There are a couple of teachers' pets within that. And we both support them. I read Martin Samuel's article, and I think we agreed to disagree on some matters, but that's one of the benefits of living in a democracy. Why did all of those 6 clubs vote against it? Well, the first aim of those 6 clubs, yes, they are deemed to be well run. Yes, they are quite sort of sensible and strategic in their outlook. But the first thing that all those 6 clubs aim for at the start of each season is to finish 17th or above. And if we take a look at what's happened with Nottingham Forest when they were given a points deduction 2 years ago, it was because they had just been promoted from the Championship, and therefore they were only allowed to lose £61 million over 3 years, whereas Brighton, Palace, Bournemouth, Brentford, and so on, they were allowed to lose 105. So the established sort of middle classes, but looking slightly nervously over their shoulder clubs, they had a financial advantage over any club which has just been promoted. Under the SCR rules, and this has gone under the radar, if Coventry, Bristol City, and Millwall, let's say, are promoted this season, they will be on an even keel. They will have an even footing compared to Palace, Bournemouth, Brighton, and so on. So therefore, they've got a greater chance of staying up. If they've got a greater chance of staying up, those 6 clubs I've just mentioned have got a greater club of going down. And you then have to try to sort of move your way through the fog, and there is a fog. Those clubs are saying, "Well, this is not fair on us because we have a player trading model which is successful." And I'm not being rude. I wouldn't say that they all have got great player trading models. Some have done better than others. Some have done worse than others. I'm not denying that. So it has become incredibly political, but I don't think the other 14 will be able to retain the status quo because it only takes one more vote. If, let's say, Newcastle or Villa decide that they're going to jump ship into the other into the Big Six, it's also worth noting that even within the Big Six, there's a lack of agreement on some things. I know at least one of the Big Six clubs is in favour of the independent regulator, whereas some of the others are very highly against it. It was one of the Big Six clubs, which was Arsenal, who were very keen on top to bottom anchoring, whereas I think the Liverpool and the two Manchester clubs were opposed to it. So we a bit like broader politics, the politics of the Premier League has become very difficult to predict, and you've got people jumping ship from one faction to another in an unpredictable way. Again, a bit like broader politics.
I think at some stage, Kieran, we probably either need to do a sort of 15-minute masterclass in one of our pods or have a special pod about squad cost ratio, because we've sort of talked about it. It has kind of gone under the radar completely because it's a massive change and it's coming in imminently, basically. So I think we need to discuss the ins and outs of that and the pros and cons and any other tautologies I can come up with. But in the meantime, just a couple of things off the back of Paul. I know I chuckled when including Spurs. Is that the Big Six? Is Spurs part of the Big Six?
They are part of the Big Six in the sense that they were one of the Super League clubs.
Right.
I think it has been, and this isn't a dig at Spurs, because Spurs are the most profitable club in the history of the Premier League. I think Daniel Levy did an awful lot of good for the business of Spurs. Now, the business of Spurs is not why a Spurs fan supports Spurs, but supports Tottenham as a football club. And I think there is a separation of those two elements. It is a bit strange that they've sort of managed to sort of get on the coattails of the clubs that have generated trophies without really delivering on that side of things themselves. It's a bit like, we go back a long way in terms of football.
Yeah.
There was the occasional tear up.
Yeah.
And there'll be the Uncle Terrys at the front, and then there'd be that little bloke at the sides going, get into himself, and then when he got back to the pub, he's the guy who said, I took on 6 mil by myself. What? And so on. So I think Spurs have they have aspirations to be Big Six, but in a trophy non-winning mode of delivery.
Then, of course, there are the people like you and me who were in the pub an hour before Terry and the bloke on the sidelines because we saw trouble coming, didn't want to start.
Yeah. Come another lemon soda.
Yeah. The other issue, where Paul does have a point, just as there's this existential fear that we've discussed often amongst English football fans, that once you get the 14 American owners, then everything's going to be voted out the window. You do wonder why sometimes the other clubs outside the traditional Big Six don't realise they do seem to have a potent weapon there. Even if they were to get together and say, I'll tell you what, from now on we're going to vote, you need a majority of 18. There seems a powerful stick that they're reluctant to use.
Yes. I think some clubs quite like the idea of being in a position, what happens if we are taken? What happens if we do become the next Manchester City or Chelsea in terms of the wealthy owner? Now, PSR does prevent that, and I think we'll come back to that in. If you take a look at Paul's first comment, PSR is designed to maintain the status quo. I think that is an unforeseen consequence, as the Premier League itself likes to say in respect of its opposition to the independent regulator. It's messy as always, as is politics.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
So what do you want?
What do I want? I want to use my degree for good. And in general.
I kind of meant like a muffin or a latte.
I want a job with a generous work-from-grocery-store policy.
You are here a lot.
Debbie, please, I'm working.
I want a job that will change the world.
Ma'am, this is a drive-thru.
And some nuggets.
With LinkedIn's new AI-powered job search, you can find roles that match your unique skills so you can dare to discover more. Visit linkedin.com/jobs to learn more.
I think the Premier League have referred to this pod as an unforeseen consequence in previous occasions. Rob Bursack has our next question, and this is one, as a Londoner, I'm very interested in the answer, Kieran. Rob Bursack says, as a season ticket holder at Fulham for the last 20 years, I've often wondered how location has impacted Fulham's fortunes. I'm going to say that again just for my own benefit, has had an impact on Fulham's fortunes. I
know you don't like impacted, do you?
I do not. No, nor does my ex-father-in-law. God rest his soul. I don't want any thunder and lightning later on. Size-wise, says Rob, we're probably on a par with Blackpool or Preston, but have the advantage of being in SW6. Is the postcode of a club a big determinant of their success? Certainly over the last 20 years, it's not controversial to say we've seen more success than both those clubs. Are we just fortunate that our geography makes us more attractive to international, brackets US, investors? The thing is, in the past, of course, Blackpool and Preston were both huge clubs. You could argue that the Northwest is just as influential or as important to outside investors as the heartland of English football. And also, Fulham, no matter what division they're in, Fulham have always been a relatively well-supported club. And I'm not entirely sure that's in the past has had anything to do with where they're located. But I think it's a very interesting question for contemporary football.
Yes. I went onto my spreadsheet, as is my it's my comfort blanket for all things, as we both know.
Of course.
In the period since Shahid Khan acquired Fulham Football Club, so he acquired them in 2013-14, Fulham have generated matchday revenues of £95 million. Shahid Khan has put £818 million into Fulham Football Club.
Wow.
So he is that US investor.
Yeah.
Then I think we have to take a look at, is SW6 attractive to US investors? It's in London.
Yeah.
You think Palace, you've got Woody Johnson, and you've got Donner and Blitzen, and whatever they're called. You've got Stan Kroenke at Arsenal. You've got the US investors at Chelsea. So London is incredibly attractive because, despite, and I'm not political, London's a great city.
Yeah.
London is an absolutely, we're both London boys ourselves. And that's what I'm always slightly baffled at these people that say it's a den of iniquity. So it's attractive to investors because of the transport links. In terms, if I'm an American investor, I can hop on a plane on Friday afternoon, get to London. I'm travelling business or first class. So I'll get a good night's kip. I can go and watch my team. I can catch a flight back Sunday morning. I'm back Sunday afternoon back in the US, and it's very, very easy to be done. So it has that flexibility. There is a kudos of Fulham being a London club, so that certainly has an impact in terms of the value of the club. So I don't think it's SW6 in itself. I think it's broader of being an issue in London because being a London club meant that Shahid Khan decided to buy Fulham from whatever his name was, the guy that used to own Harrods, Mohammed Fayed.
Al Fayed, yeah.
Yeah, so I should have got that right as a dedicated reader of Private Eye for 45 years. It was a regular
And indeed, like most fans, a shopper at Harrods grocery department.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, where else can you get your organic quinoa from? So I think geography certainly helps. At the same time, as we've discussed, we've got American investors in Gillingham and Carlisle and Dundee these days. So there's a broader attraction to English football. But for me, it's the investment or the effectively the writing off of 800 million quid. I mean, if he sells, you'll get a fair amount of his money back. If he does sell.
I think it's fair to point out, Kieran, that you can be a great city and a den of inequity.
Oh yes,
or even iniquity. You see, I've been doing this pod so long that inequity has become my go-to word rather than iniquity. And also, I should point out to those people not from London that Kieran and I both have the same view on this. It's because we love London so much that we fully understand why people from Newcastle or Leeds or New York or Melbourne, fully understand why people from their city love their own city. I've never understood that. It's the same with England fans. Why does loving England also mean hating Latvia and booing their national? It makes no sense at all. Why is nobody else allowed to love their city or their country? This is probably a discussion for another day, but I think Palace fans don't really see themselves as a London club. Not in the same way, certainly not economically, as say Fulham or Arsenal or even West Ham. I mean, Charlton fans, Millwall fans would feel the same way. I think we're probably less of an attract. Well, obviously we're not, because we keep getting American investors who then disappear for months on end. Matt Fry has our next question. And Matt Fry is talking about Luton. Matt Fry says, Luton, like some other clubs, do not actually own their ground. In Luton's case, the freehold is owned by the local council and has been since 1989. In the original agreement, the club were given 7 years to relocate in exchange for a peppercorn rent of £1 per year. Now, over time, this agreement has been extended, with the current agreement running out in 2028 with similarly favourable terms. My question is, where do these arrangements fit within PSR? Surely this gives clubs a financial advantage if they are paying lower rent, or almost in this case no rent at all. I understand running costs will have to be met, but the stadium costs are significantly lower for, say, West Ham than Spurs.
Absolutely, Matt. If you take a look again, I'm beholden to my spreadsheet here. Since West Ham moved into the London Stadium in 2016-17, they've paid a total of £29 million in rent. Spurs have spent a billion, if not more, on the new stadium, and their annual depreciation costs, which is sort of the stadium equivalent of amortization, is around about £73 million a year. So there is a substantial difference. However, from a PSR perspective, and this will disappear, by the way, when we move to the new rules, and the new rules have got me slightly twitchy, because it ignores those clubs that borrow a lot of money. It ignores those clubs that have got poor cost control in non-wage areas. But that's a separate discussion. That all infrastructure costs are excluded from PSR. So it doesn't matter whether you spend 3 or 4 million, as West Ham do each year, or 70 million, as Spurs do. One thing that you also have to take into account, yes, Luton are paying a rent of £1 per year. What benefits does it give Luton Town Football Club on non-match days? Because as far as West Ham are concerned, yes, they are paying a very low rent, but when the athletics championships are hosted at the London Stadium, it's E20 or whatever the name of the landlord's company is, which gets the benefit. Whereas with Spurs, when they're hosting Beyonce, Coldplay, NFL, and so on, it's Spurs who are the beneficiary. So I think that you've got to look at it in both of income generation, having the freehold or having a long leasehold on the stadium, with the rights to do what you want to do with it 365 days a year can be significantly beneficial to the club. And it makes sort of you have to take a look at the overall implications from a profitability perspective. So it's, as always, it's messy. Where West Ham and Luton do get an advantage is in a non-PSR environment. I think in terms of cash flow, if you're not having to pay much for the stadium which you're occupying, you do get that benefit. But at the same time, there's that offset in terms of not being able to generate as much revenue either.
Can there be a greater contrast, Kieran, between the approach to Fulham and the approach to Luton? The walk to Craven Cottage is one of the most beautiful in English football. When you walk through Bishop's Park, it's just a lovely. And the walk to Kenilworth Road isn't quite the same. You wander down these terrace streets going, where the bloody hell? And it's down that little alleyway. Okay.
Yes.
It's one of my favourite football memories. Where at Luton, walking down one of those little tiny terraced houses. And there must have been 15 kids hanging out of the windows, all dressed as characters from Thunderbirds. There was 14 Thunderbird pilots and one lady Penelope, which is whenever it's one of those things you get 3 houses down and you think, should we go back and find out what's going on there? You just we'll just agree that we saw that going on. Our penultimate question on this slightly shorter than usual questions pod, Kieran. If you want more questions, of course, you can join our Price of Football Club because we are recording another special episode today for Price of Football members of a questions pod. But Jack O'Flaherty, or I know some people prefer O'Flaherty, but Jack O'Flaherty has our penultimate question. Very interesting one. If a player is found to have been taking performance-enhancing drugs, says Jack O'Flaherty, over the course of a season and is subsequently banned, would a club be able to force a player to return any money it paid in bonuses for goals scored, etc.? Their argument being that had the player not been taking the performance-enhancing drugs, he would not have scored as many goals. I would imagine the simple answer to this, Kieran, surely would be yes, wouldn't it?
Well, I of course contacted more than one of our secret lawyers, and they said, "Oh, you've given us an idea here, Kieran." Of course, it depends.
Yeah.
But I did have a broader conversation with one of the secret lawyers, and as always, thank you so much for giving up your time and experience and insights and advice to us. We genuinely appreciate it.
We do.
We actually are having a discussion about VAR. And things that VAR is getting an awful lot of stick.
It's got. I'll stop you there, Kieran. It's got to go. Simple as that. I'm fed up with this debate. It's not fit for purpose. It's the Newcastle Man City one last week, the Carabao, absolutely ridiculous. There's something. I have no suggestions as to what should be done, but something needs to be done.
I like that.
I'm a football fan. Something needs to be done. What it is, I don't know, but it's got to go.
Well, I think the consensus from a footballing point of view, the vast majority of fans are in agreement with you, which is why I had this discussion with the secret lawyer. He said, or she said, to date, there has not been a legal claim, and this sort of leads into this particular story. There has not been a legal claim from a club that has been relegated or that has missed out on Champions League participation or winning AFCON or the Championship play. Some of these
that might change.
Some of these matches which could have huge financial implications for the parties involved on the basis of an incorrect refereeing decision. And as the secret lawyer pointed out to me, if the Premier League were seen to, and we can criticise VAR until the cows come home, but the number of incorrect decisions has decreased. Now, whether that's not worth the price to pay for the disruption of the love of the game that we all have is a separate conversation to have. But he said that, or she said,
or they said,
yes. But they said, if a club was relegated from the Premier League and there'd been a controversial decision and the Premier League had been seen to get rid of VAR and VAR potentially would have highlighted that refereeing decision was incorrect, there could be a legal case against the Premier League itself. So therefore, there will be a huge reduction in the likelihood of this going ahead. So that's where we are. So if we extend this to a performance enhancing drug, and it was a Romanian player, wasn't he? Played for Chelsea.
Mutu.
2000. Mutu, Adrian Mutu. He was he was found guilty of a drugs test of I think it was cocaine or something else. And you could argue whether that's a performance enhancing drug, but again, separate discussion. And he was dismissed by Chelsea, and then there was a legal claim against him, and so on. And that was between the club and the player. Could it be from another club as a test case? The lawyer said it could be. I think it's trying to sort of do the wrist bone is connected to the elbow bone, is connected to the shoulder bone in terms of proving that you have lost out as a result. Isn't easy, but they then mentioned to me the Carlos Tevez case, where Carlos Tevez was subject to third-party ownership when he was a West Ham player. That was against the rules at the time. Anybody that saw Tevez play for West Ham at the end of that season, he was absolutely brilliant. And he scored the goals which kept West Ham up. And then there was an out-of-court settlement between West Ham and Sheffield United, which I think was somewhere in the region of £20 million. And that was around about 2008, 2000. Yeah. In those days, £20 million was a lot of money. So you'd hate to think what it would be today. So there is precedent in all of this, but I can't give you a definitive answer, Jack. But I did have a very long conversation and a very intriguing conversation. Okay, you've not got the clock running on this, have you?
Yeah, you could buy a house in London for 20 million in those days.
That's right.
It's an interesting one, because there is also this is the sort of thing that you'd think if a club discovered that one of their players was taking performance enhancing drugs, if I owned that club, I'd keep it quiet. I wouldn't. I would just quietly bin the player rather than draw attention to the fact that my club had a player who'd been taking performance enhancing drugs, because then the rest of football will be saying, well, why didn't you have procedures in place to stop this player taking performance enhancing drugs? Did the club know that the player was taking performance enhancing drugs? I understand from talking to I have my own secret sources that performance enhancing drugs don't really help in football anyway, except in maybe help you stay out training for half an hour longer. But as the prevailing mood of Palace fans at the moment is that most players are lazy sods who don't train hard enough anyway, I don't think that would help. But if a player were to do that, because you think you're quite right, it's far more likely to be the club that's had the goals scored against them than his own club that would take the legal action. So I'd be interested to hear people's opinions on that. What I won't be interested to hear is stories about what happened in Sunday football, because inevitably somebody will go, "Oh yeah, well, remember when Jackie turned up that day when he'd been out on one the night before?" And, we'll take those as read.
Año nuevo. Los mismos Extra Value Meals en McDonald's. Ahora te puedes llevar 2 snack wraps y papitas y una bebida mediana por solo $8. Solo por tiempo limitado. Precios y participación pueden variar. Los precios pueden ser más altos en Hawaii, Alaska y California y con entrega.
I didn't even realize I was wasting $415 a month until I downloaded Rocket Money. I thought I had my finances under control until the app laid out all my spending and categorized it for me. Takeout, shopping, and unused subscriptions were quietly draining my account. And as a result, my savings took a back seat. But Rocket Money doesn't just tell you what you're wasting money on. It takes action to save you money. First, the app looks at your income and monthly expenses and calculates how much you can safely spend each day to stay under budget. Rocket Money also finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions for you and even negotiates better rates on your bills so you have more money in your pocket. On average, Rocket Money members can save up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Users love the app with over 186,000 5-star ratings. It's time to simplify your finances and take control of your money. Go to rocketmoney.com/cancel to get started. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
Luke Anderton has our last question. And I'm really interested to hear the answer to this, Kieran, because I'm married to someone who's convinced that somebody is listening to her phone calls and sending her adverts for Sainsbury's products on the back of those phone calls. But Luke says, are the ads during football coverage on Prime personalised per viewer as on YouTube, or are they more general as they are on ITV, etc.?
Right. If you are a member of Amazon Prime, I would encourage you to just revisit the terms and conditions of your contract with Amazon Prime, as this is the case with all of the broadcasting. That bit that we scroll through and then we tick yes, because it specifically states that personalized interest can be gathered by Amazon.
Oh.
And this can therefore be used as part of the cookies and part of the broader interaction. And anybody that goes on a website on a regular basis, so, I go on quite a few, fans forums and so on. It's amazing just how much the internet knows about me.
And I hate to say this, Kieran, that's possibly because you're never off the telly. Essentially, people, the whole world knows a lot about you. They know what the room you record in looks like. People.
Yes, but I go on and go. Why are they trying to sell me Toblerone and Marmite? It's just bizarre. Like, oh, okay, yeah. So
Toblerone, Marmite, and Greenland away shirts.
That's right. He looks militant. So yes, there is a greater chance of you receiving a personalised advert during the halftime breaks. It is more complicated because Amazon Prime did have the UEFA contract for the Champions League and so on. And remember, they've lost that to Paramount, so you're going to need yet another another subscription from next season if that's what you want to watch. But UEFA do have their senior partners, so you will still get whatever the tyre company is and whatever the finance company is, which are the sort of the senior partners. But yes, you could have slightly more tailored adverts. It is more complicated on Amazon Prime than it is on. I mean, YouTube is scary, the nature of the personalised adverts. But yes, Amazon are fully aware, and for anybody that's got an Alexa. They are listening to you 24 hours a day, by the way, not just when you say, "Hey, Alexa."
What, somebody in China is listening to you? Is that what you're saying?
That's very probable.
You say YouTube's scary. I've had this argument with many a bloke in a pub about this sort. I occasionally, like if I'm in a hospital waiting room, I will scroll through the phone looking for a new video on YouTube about Anne Boleyn or the Battle of Flodden, for example. And I just, as a matter of course, I just go accept all cookies because I can't be asked pressing the next button that says, "Do you want to accept some?" And I don't think there's any. I mean, this is based on the most minimal research, i.e., just me. So it's a very small sample group, and I haven't decided to check what happens if I go reject all cookies. But I don't think my life's been significantly affected by just going accept all cookies. Except I get to the Anne Boleyn video 3 seconds quicker than I would have done otherwise. I haven't been inundated with Anne Boleyn tea towel adverts or Battle of Flodden guidebook adverts. So personally, I think people are making a fuss about nothing here. Thank you to everyone who's joined the Price of Football Club. If you'd like to join the club too and get every episode a day earlier than anyone else, ad-free listening and invite to our monthly Q&A sessions, bonus episodes, one of which we're about to record now, and more, go to our website, priceoffootball.com. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube. And if you'd like to buy one of our books or a Price of Football t-shirt, it's back. You can find all details on that very same website, priceoffootball.com. Kieran's all excited because we've got another bonus episode to record. He's got Brighton v Bournemouth tonight, big South Coast derby. But we'll be back on Thursday with our news pod, which I suspect may contain more on Senegal v Morocco. And in the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire in his Greenland away shirt for his customary farewell.
Well, thank you to everybody, as always, that gets in contact. It's incredible to know that just the number of countries in which people do listen to us. So if anybody from the Greenland FA is a Price of Football fan and fancies coming on the show, we would love to have a chat with you, because on a slightly more serious note, Greenland applied to FIFA last year to become a full member of FIFA, and that was rejected.
Yeah,
I wonder why.
Because they couldn't afford it.
Well, I think FIFA can. If Bhutan can, if the Cook Islands can be a member of FIFA. At present, Greenland is one of those countries, a bit like Gibraltar and so on, that has their own sort of non-FIFA version of the World Cup. And for anybody who's sort of a regular When Saturday Comes reader will, of course, know the results from that and so on. So it is intriguing. So thank you for everybody that's been in contact. We do try to answer as many as we can, as quickly as we can. And of course, one of the ways you can get a quicker answer is to become a Price of Football Club member. But there's an alternative. Times are tight. We know that people have got limited amounts of cash available, and there are lots and lots of subscription offers out there from a variety of very, very good and some not so good organisations. So there's a way that you can assist us, and that's just 30. Takes 30 seconds. Okay, won't cost you a penny. Cost you 30 seconds. Pop onto your app, give us a little review, and it just adds to the number of reviews that we've had. Doesn't matter what you write. So you could even say you'd rather have the show presented by Lady Penelope and Parker, and frankly, I would pay a fortune for that.
That's
yes, my lady.
It's I don't know whether to end with my favourite Thunderbirds. No, I'll tell you what, I'll end a bonus episode with my favourite Thunderbirds joke.
Okay.
I'll end Parker. That's one of the brilliant things about the 60s when you think about it. He was your Uncle Terry, basically, Parker.
He was, yes.
Not only was he a convicted safe breaker, but they used his skills every now and again. But that's all right. They used it in the course of good, so that's fine. I'll just end to see. This is where being a history buff is. Greenland. You know why it's called Greenland?
No.
It's basically a medieval estate agent. So ye olde Foxtons, they discovered this tract of inhospitable Arctic ice and said to the rest of Europe, there's this brilliant place. It's called Greenland. It's covered in grass. It's lovely. If you want to buy a little bit of this chunk of heaven, essentially, that's why it's called Greenland.
That's fascinating. That's brilliant.
You say that, Kieran. You've got exactly the same look in your face that Ali has when she goes, "Oh, that's really interesting."
No. I will use it. As you know, I struggle. Whilst I can talk to a microphone for hours upon end, in social situations, I struggle to such an extent that the Baroness, if we're going out with another couple, she has to give me Post-it notes about things to talk about because I'm absolutely hopeless. And I might add that as a self-certificated Post-it note.
I'm not entirely sure whether Wycombe Wanderers' current financial state and a half-researched fact from the bloke you do a podcast with count as conversation icebreakers. I would check that with the Baroness. I love the idea she gives you Post-it note. Nod politely. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Price of Football. The Price of Football.